When a comic book or a novel is made into a TV show or a movie, a couple of things are lost in the transition. The same can be said for Amazon Prime's The Boys series. And in this video, we're going to look at the biggest changes made to the character Black Noir. Let's get to it.
As the days are getting closer, we're all hyped to see how The Boys will end. I mean, there is a good reason for it. We've been so excited to see it. Now, if you've seen the show and only the show, then let me tell you, the show is nothing like the comics, especially when it comes to Black Noir. What Garth Ennis did with the character in the comics is so much weirder and darker than whatever we're seeing on the show. And the show has given us a lot. But this one character, who basically spends most of the time on the sidelines and then gets killed in Season 3, is actually a huge deal in the comics. And today, we're gonna talk about it. Join me as I break down 8 Black Noir scenes that the show will never adapt, and for good reasons. The clone reveal. Starting off strong, we have the ultimate reveal ever in the comics, issue 65. See, the whole premise of comic Black Noir is that he's just there. He's a part of the Seven, but that's kinda it. He's a bad guy. But then, the boys found out the truth about him, and no one had expected it. Black Noir was built by Vought. See, Vought knew that what they were doing with Homelander was a dodgy deal. They could technically let Homelander go about his day, but they also knew that if Homelander decided to suddenly revolt or step out of bounds, there would be nothing to stop him. So, they made Black Noir. He is genetically identical to Homelander, but with one mission. If Homelander ever went off script, the Black Noir was to kill him. Basically, the assassin and the target were put together. Sinister and classy, just like Vought. But here's the problem. Vought kinda overestimated Homelander. Homelander is a power-hungry narcissist, sure, but he loves being adored. He would never step out of line with Vought because that means he would lose the power and the admiration. So, he stayed. He was loyal in a very dangerous way. And Black Noir, who had one job, was out there, waiting for the other shoe to drop, which, for better or for worse, didn't show any sign of dropping anytime soon. And that waiting, of never knowing when he would be allowed to fulfill his mission, broke him. This, my dear viewers, is what makes the comics so good. Because once that reveal comes out, that Black Noir is literally Homelander's twin, same face, same power, all that jazz, everything changes. It recontextualizes every single scene we have seen Black Noir in. I mean, literally every single scene. Every panel where he's just standing there doing nothing. And now, when I reread those comics, it's almost like I can feel him staring at Homelander, you know? Waiting for the right moment to pounce on Homelander and rip him to shreds. Now, Eric Kripke knew what the comic was like, and he made an executive decision not to have that. His logic is pretty good. He didn't want the clone twist in the story, as it would make the central villain of the story at least a victim partially. We will come back to that, don't worry. And he didn't want that. So instead, we got TV Homelander and TV Black Noir. TV Homelander is someone who owns every single messed up thing he is doing, and he deserves everything that is coming to him. And TV Black Noir? He's just another soup drawn into this mess, and not a contingency plan. Black Noir assaulting Becca Butcher while wearing Homelander's face. This reveal had my jaw on the floor, like I'm not kidding. When I first read that panel, my mouth was wide open, and I had to go back a few panels just so that I could re-experience that mic drop moment one more time. It hit me like a truck, and I am still not over it. So, in the comics, Becca, or Becky as she's called, was assaulted by Black Noir. He put on Homelander's costume and went on this little side quest. Billy wasn't there and Becky got pregnant. Now, this child, it was half human and half compound V charged soup. Neither Becky nor the baby survived the birth. And poor Billy. When he came home, his wife was missing. Just gone. Butcher eventually finds out that Homelander assaulted Becky, and that's what got the ball rolling, right? He is hunting Homelander to avenge his wife. Everything he does to get close to Homelander and destroy him. And then, in the 65th issue, he finds out, with us, that it wasn't Homelander. This whole time, The man who killed his wife was Black Noir. It was shocking, but it was also tragic, you know? I tried to imagine how I would have felt in that moment if I were Butcher. I would probably have attacked Black Noir myself, but Butcher played his hand better, and I commend him for that. The TV show, well, they couldn't go that way. Becca survived and Ryan is Homelander's son. Billy knows that it's Homelander who did it, and Billy's motivation to kill him is correctly aimed and justified. The show did everything they could to make sure the villain is completely villainous throughout the runtime of the show, instead of pulling an actually as the comics did. And I love that. Because structurally, if that reveal happened on TV, I know for a fact some people would break their TVs in frustration. For the TV story, removing this was the right call, but that also means this tragic moment no longer exists in the TV show. The photographs. Baby eating and blackmail campaign. Yeah, you heard that right. Baby eating photos. The comics are wild. If you've not read the comics, you absolutely should. You're missing out on some real messed up but entertaining stuff. Now, we're going to do our best to stay monetized here, so please bear with us. Part of Black Noir's plan was to destabilize Homelander and push him to do messed up things, right? And to do that, he would wear Homelander's outfit, do abhorrent things, and then send photographic evidence of those to Homelander himself. That way, Homelander would wake up and see all of this proof of him doing messed up things, but would have no memory of it, because he didn't do it, and therefore would start doubting himself. And it worked. Homelander genuinely believed that he was blacking out and doing things that he had no memory of, and we get to see those photos in the 40th issue of the comic as a part of James Stillwell's Blackmail. I cannot show the photos without censoring them, but yeah, Black Noir ate a kid. It is depicted as evidence, but god, that was enough to make me feel queasy. There's so much blood and guts, and the joy on Black Noir's face, Now, keep in mind, this is before we know that Black Noir is behind all of this. So when you see these panels for the first time, you're seeing Homelander. And we see Homelander looking at photos of himself munching on some forbidden fruit. He's convinced he has done it. And so are we. And in the 65th issue, when Black Noir comes clean, there's not a single hint of remorse in him. He's proud of it. He's happy he did it. And that just made me want to put my fist through the panel and punch him. Now, as cool as it would have been to see this on TV, Kripke knew that this would be too much. There is no version of the show where Homelander will eat a baby on screen, thank God. Because at that point, it's just shock factor. And The Boys has never shied away from shock factor and controversies. But they knew even this was too much. And since they already knew they weren't going to do the clone arc, there was no point in making Homelander chow down like that. Plus, the purpose behind those photos and the act, the whole psychological disturbance plot, goes straight out the window when the clone plot point is removed. So this one point will forever stay in the comics, and I for one am not complaining. Herogasm. What happened to Huey underground? Season 3 of the show adapted the Herogasm arc, and it was definitely the most chaotic and out there season of the show. But there was a part that they left out of the show. In the miniseries, Huey goes undercover on this island to plant a surveillance device. Why? Because this island is where all the supes are getting their rocks off. So, what better time to plant devices than now, right? Now, while he's in the tunnels, Black Noir finds him. He knocks Huey out and assaults him. When Huey wakes up, he is so shocked by what happened that he doesn't tell anyone anything. Instead, he told everyone that he had fallen and bumped his head. That's why he was out of touch for a while. And Black Noir, who found one of the boys down in the tunnel, didn't tell anyone that he found Huey either. There was no big move about trying to abduct Huey or use his safety as a leverage to one-up the boys. Instead, he just did his business and ran away. Now, given what we already know about Black Noir, we can understand that he's working on his instincts and compulsion. No thought behind those eyes. But in the moment, when I was reading the miniseries, good God, that part made me halt and put my tablet down for a while. The show turned the Herogasm arc into a comedic nightmare for Huey. He keeps walking into the wrong rooms, sees things he doesn't want to see, and then gets covered in things he doesn't want. And honestly, I think the comic book Huey would be okay with that. The Framing Campaign. How Black Noir drove Homelander insane. As someone who has read the comic multiple times, let me tell you, The joy of watching the framing campaign go on now that I know what was happening is truly something. Over years, almost decades, Black Noir systematically created evidence that basically pushed this narrative that Homelander was losing his mind. He was documenting himself doing crimes while dressed as Homelander and sent the proof to the latter. Murder, sexual assault, cannibalism. There wasn't anything Black Noir hadn't done, and he made sure Homelander saw those. From Homelander's perspective, after a while, he started to believe that maybe he truly was doing all of it. Maybe he was blacking out and committing these atrocities because Homelander couldn't even fathom that someone else who looks like him, could be doing it. There is no way there's someone else like him, right? And because of that, Homelander basically became paranoid and unstable, which served Black Noir's purpose perfectly. The more unstable Homelander would be, the easier it would be for Black Noir to finally do his one job. And that is some insane level of mental gymnastics. The show instead went a different route, with Homelander being basically insane. That's why the show's Homelander feels so frightening. There is no buried innocence in him. He is just a man with unchecked power doing whatever he can and wants, because who's gonna stop him? The White House. The climax of the comic takes place in the White House. Here, Black Noir reveals himself to be the clone of Homelander. And finally, Homelander realizes how he was played and manipulated throughout his entire life. Now, Black Noir was made to be a little stronger, better than Homelander. So when they started throwing punches, it didn't take much to have one man standing. And that was, of course, Black Noir. He rips Homelander to shreds and steps out of the White House, holding the severed torso while his guts were spilling out of him. This was the one moment Black Noir was built for, and after so many decades of waiting, Black Noir finally finished the job. Then, Butcher stands in front of a dying Black Noir and finishes his job. We'll come back to it, don't you worry, but that's how the comic ends. The show, on the other hand, has Homelander alive and well, heading into the 5th season as the main antagonist. The original TV Black Noir, Irving, played by Nathan Mitchell, was killed by Homelander in Season 3 for hiding the Soldier Boy secret. Then, in the 4th season, we are introduced to this new Black Noir, who has no connection with Homelander and his origins. So, again, a different route. Not necessarily a missed opportunity, we could have had something there. The Starlight Confession. We all know the Starlight incident, right? In the show, it was a solo act done by the Deep in Season 1. A-Train was there, but he didn't participate or help. Homelander was there and he intervened, but then that escalated further in a different way. But overall, the show's Starlight incident was all about the Deep and his failing morals instead of a team-wide thing. Black Noir was nowhere to be found. In the comics, however, the whole thing was a lot more harrowing and gruesome. Homelander, A-Train, and Black Noir together did that. This was a group crime, forcing Starlight to entertain them, or otherwise, she would go back to where she came from. It was a matter of power demonstration, and that's about it. However, when Black Noir finally started to confess his wrongdoings, it's implied that he was the one who orchestrated the whole incident just to ruin Homelander's reputation. Butcher's Revenge. The Crowbar. The 65th issue of The Boys is a personal favorite of mine for many reasons. I've mentioned all of them so far in the video, but my favorite moment is this. After the White House fight, Black Noir comes out dying and bleeding. Billy Butcher arrives and then he picks up the crowbar and cranks off a piece of his skull. Black Noir sits there, watching him, because he barely has any strength left in him, right? Then Butcher reaches in, picks a part of his brain, and crushes it, stating that he is destroying the memories of that horrible night with it. He beats the shit out of this dying man, rips him to shreds, because at this point, Billy is not just avenging his wife, he's making a point. He needed to make this point since he found Becky's body, and finally, he has a chance to get some semblance of revenge. This is one of the ugliest moments in the entire comic, and Ennis does it justice. Butcher looks like a man destroying the last piece of his trauma and his humanity together, blow by blow. And then, he admits his wife wouldn't like it, but he's doing this for her, basically apologizing for what he just did. Tragic, but memorable. And with that, we come to the end of our video. What a ride, right? I mean, when I say the comic is a favorite of mine, I truly mean it. The 65th issue remains in my head, rent-free, and I doubt it'll ever go away. Eric Kripke did well by staying away from the comic plot, because if they tried to adapt this, and it was any less cathartic than the comic version, I would have been upset. And I am sure I wouldn't be the only one. Let me know in the comments down below which one hit you the hardest out of the 8. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the videos with your friends. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!